Okay, the clock says 7. We have a quorum and it's time to get started. I am happy to welcome you all to the April 2024 meeting of the Durham Bicycle Pedestrian and Advisory Commission. First one in person in a little over 4 years, I believe. So please pardon us if we have any technical problems. I think everybody got primed on how to use the mics. But if we need to stop and assess or ask questions, we'll just do that. So we will start as we always do with our land acknowledgement, which Marissa has agreed to read. There's one chair on the dais open. Come on up. Welcome.
Evening.
Hello, hello.
We, as the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, want to begin this meeting by affirming BPAC's commitment to equity and racial justice. We would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on lands that have served as the home for diverse Indigenous communities long before current governments were established here. We pay our respect to the elders and members of these communities, both past and present, and recognize the harms of genocide and colonialism. We will make a conscious effort to reflect on the following questions as we advance through our business and contemplate changes in our community, and we recognize that achieving equity requires our commitment to an ongoing process. How can we seek to repair harm with our work and not erase history? How does our work impact the vulnerability and safety of people who hold many intersecting marginalized identities, including Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people with disabilities, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning people? How can we prioritize and center people in our decision-making? How can we be more responsive to local needs? How can our work build community power and shared decision-making?
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is roll call. I believe we have, I believe, one excused absence. Is that correct, Hannah? And that's Jeffrey. And currently we don't have Ideal or Suzanne Schmall. Anybody else missing? Am I missing anyone that's missing? Okay, thanks. And I think Ideal should be here soon. So, introductions all around. I'll start and then I'll go over to the end of the dais to Ed and we'll just go around and then over to the kids table. I'm Brian Hawkins. I've been on BPAC for a bit over 1.5 years now. I am the 2024 chair. And I also serve on the Development Review Committee. Ed.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ed Rivito. I've been on BPAC since 2018 and good to be back here again. And I also serve on the EE Committee.
I'm Chris Perlstein. This is my first day.
Welcome.
I'm Nathan Lee. I'm the Duke liaison, and I'm also the subcommittee chair for PI.
I'm Mary Rose Fontana, and I am the bicycle community representative, and I also volunteer on PI.
Royal, I represent the North Carolina Central University Fayetteville Street Corridor.
Hi, I'm Marissa Hartzler. I am the vice chair and also serve on the Development Review Committee.
Hello, this is Scott Carter, and I am chair of the Development Review Committee.
Landon Balcom. I've been on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for about 1.5 years, came on the same time as you. And I also volunteer on the Development and Review Committee.
I'm Mike Shepard. I've been on BPAC nearly 3 years. I am the secretary.
Hi there, Andre Sotero. I'm the youth representative for the county.
Carl Rist, Durham City Council.
And I'm Heidi Carter, Durham County Commissioner.
Good evening, Suzanne Schmall, part of the EE Committee.
pardon me. Looks like we have one guest online. Is that Robin Young?
Yes, it is. Robin
Robin.
Young, City of Durham Transportation Department.
And is there anybody else online, Hannah? I can't see anybody else.
No, I
Okay.
also can't figure out how to make it where it shows us instead of just Robin Young, so.
On the picture, 3 dots. And you should end it.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Okay,
not sure I like
cool.
that better, but
Thank
okay.
you.
And also in the peanut gallery, we have one more guest, 2 more guests, actually.
Hi, good evening. Do I do the?
Sure.
I'm Brian Fahey, Mobility Services Manager with the City of Durham Transportation Department.
Hi, Brian. Glad to have you here. Does our other guest want to say hello? Okay, and if not.
He's a teenager, I suspect.
Okay, all right. Very good. Hannah, do you have we've previewed a little, but do we have an update on membership and open seats?
Yes. Okay, so we have a new appointed member and he was just sworn in. Chris Pills. How do you, if you want to introduce yourself?
Perelstein.
Perelstein.
But no worries, it's tricky.
Yes. And you are filling the transportation policy position with the city. So awesome, excited to have you on board. We have 2 vacancies with the city. We have the youth representative, 15 years old to 24 years old. We still need applicants for that. The deadline for that is actually tomorrow, so April 17th. I'm not sure if we've received any, so fingers crossed. And then we also have another vacancy, the walking, running, and pedestrian communities for marginalized groups. That application is going to be open until May 8th. And so, yeah, we need applicants for that. And then on the county side, we still have 2 vacancies. There's the senior advocacy, and then there's the at-large. Both need applicants. And then coming soon, Suzanne, you're going to be cycling off. And so that'll be another at-large. And they're already recruiting applicants for that. And then there is 2 other at-larges. So Mike Shepherd and then Scott, both of you, you are able to apply again, but you'll need to submit an application for the second term. I don't know. It just, okay, we'll look at it. Yeah, because it had on the county side 3 vacancies for the at-large, and I was like, huh. So we'll look at that.
Did you fill a seat that was vacated? Oh, okay, we'll get that sorted out. That's what I thought. Okay, we'll look into that. Thanks.
No, you gotta stay. So yeah, those are all we got.
That is a lot. First of all, most importantly,
Yes.
welcome, Chris. We're glad to have you here. As you can tell, we sometimes struggle to fill these seats. So if anybody knows anyone who they think would be interested or might be good, please reach out to your networks, both real and social, virtual, or whatever you've got. Cast a wide net. We want to keep this body humming along. We're going to lose a couple good people soon. So, yeah. Okay. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at it beforehand. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is the minutes for the March meeting, which I also hope you've had a chance to look at. Does anybody have any corrections or comments on the March meeting minutes as currently drafted? It's much easier in person. Could I get a motion then perhaps to approve those minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. That was moved by Nathan and seconded by Scott. All in favor of approving March's minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along. I know, right? This is our public comment period. I don't think, do we have anybody here from the public that would like to offer public comment? So somebody just came in, so I just want to give you a chance. Okay. Didn't want to put you on the spot either, so. Great. Well, Brian, you're up.
All right. Hi, Robin. How you doing? See if she can hear me.
Are you talking?
I'm
Are you
talking to you,
talking?
Robin.
Okay, I can hear you.
All right. Well, I brought my notes with me just in case I couldn't see. So thank you again. I actually feel honored to be here for your first in-person meeting in quite some time. My name is Brian Fahey. I'm the Mobility Services Manager with the City of Durham. I was actually wanted to just give you some updates and work been doing some time now with Ed. I wanted to give an update, not just on microtransit, but on on-demand service that is provided here in the Bull City. So actually, we're a very young division. So the Mobility Services Division of the Transportation Department, we actually just celebrated our first birthday. So I am now been with the city just under 2 years. We are a mighty staff of 4 in the Transportation Department. But our reach is far and we have great things planned. So a little bit on our mission is to provide and maintain a safe, equitable, inclusive, and sustainable multimodal transportation system with high quality infrastructure to improve mobility and to offer everyone in Durham access to necessities and opportunities. So what actually currently falls under our purview now are our contracts for our fixed route, the Go Durham bus service. So we have a contract with RATP Dev, as well as our ADA paratransit service, Go Durham Access. And that service also provides countywide on-demand service. So that is funded through county and state dollars. So we are a coordinated system. And we do that through an interlocal agreement with Durham County. We also are responsible for administration of our shared active transportation, the micromobility, which is our scooters and e-bikes, ordinance, as well as our passenger vehicle for hire, and that is our taxi cab ordinance. So tonight, I just wanted to focus on some key work that is being done in the area of on-demand. This includes work on our paratransit task force, updates in the microtransit service in Durham, planning and considerations for a brokerage model of service, and the next steps. Just first, our paratransit task force started last summer, and Ed is actually one of our great partners in this. It's comprised of customers for Go Durham Access, city and county, and contractor staff. The task force, along with a consultant we have under contract, Benish, has been working on solutions to improve the Go Durham Access service. So this includes simplifying the challenge customers face and navigating multiple mobility options with different services and funding sources. Providing greater freedom and flexibility and allowing for same-day scheduling of trips, which is a primary goal. Exploring best practices and recommendations for improving customer communication and travel training opportunities. Providing a solution to simplify the administration of nearly 10 funding sources, including ADA, state, county, transit tax, and other federal funds. And then providing a single solution for managing all of the reservations we receive at Go Durham Access, scheduling and managing client eligibility across multiple providers. All of this to be done also to ensure compliance with regulations such as Title VI and ADA, which is a very emerging environment that we are working with. And there's still lots of open questions when it comes to federal regulations regarding on-demand services. So in late 2023, we received news related to microtransit. So not sure if everyone is familiar, but this also presented some new opportunities and challenges that our task force is now looking at. So first, with the Go Durham Connect service, that is the existing microtransit program here in Durham. It's currently administered by Go Triangle, our regional partner, and it's funded by the Durham County Transit Plan. There are currently two microtransit zones as shown in the slides here, one in East Durham and one in North Durham. It's currently operated through through a contract with Lyft. Customers can travel anywhere within the zone using a program code in the Lyft app. The program subsidizes the first $5 of the trip and allows up to 60 trips per month. Late in 2023, Go Triangle notified its partners of its intent to end the current pilot of on June 30th of this year. So we quickly adjusted our portion of our work earlier this year to explore ways to incorporate the two microtransit zones into our on-demand service beginning in early fall of this year, and shifting towards a more brokered model of service management and delivery. Yes.
Get it. What is microtransit? I can call somebody, it's like a taxi service, but it's Lyft and I get a $5 subsidy, but anybody can use it?
Yes, and it can be different ways, but microtransit is basically an on-demand service, and it's not limited by just, say, for example, ADA paratransit. That is a service we're required to provide by law. That's complementary to your fixed route bus service. Microtransit is kind of emerging around the country, and a lot of times it's used in the suburban areas where it doesn't make sense to operate a 40-foot bus. You don't have the demand, the streets are hard to navigate. And then they create zones, and basically they're what they call transit deserts. So where transit service is not high frequent, and people can travel anywhere within the zone. A lot of times it's to travel to a point where it connects at a nice stop and amenity to a bus. And then it can be operated in many different ways. It can be operated by a service contractor, such as the one that operates our Go Durham Access service. It's done through contracts around the country with Lyft, Uber, other taxi providers. I'll actually go through and talking about kind of our priorities and what we're looking at, but the delivery is in many different ways, and it can be shaped with how you create the rules. The key is it is it's a very high cost service. So you're trying to maximize efficiency and keep the costs down. I think one thing Go Triangle saw was when they originally had it where they would subsidize up to $25 a trip, and I think it was 120 trips a month. They had already reached 75% of the budget in 2 months. And so they had to make some drastic changes. So the big thing is making sure you're planning and modeling appropriately to really make sure you can manage that demand, but still make it convenient for the customer and make it worthwhile. That's really, and then at the same time, making sure that it's compliant with our federal regulations. Average cost per trip on Lyft right now is running around, say, about $12 per trip. And this pays about half, yes.
Does this only go to a transit stop, or will it take them anywhere?
And in the Durham and the Go Durham Connect zones, it's actually anywhere within the zone. So as long as you're traveling to any point in the zone, that's covered. Yes. Not so much. Would actually, in areas where the North Durham Connect, they actually went down south into Bragtown. But there was an issue because they were duplicating the current Route 9. And while, it's a viewpoint, because at the time we were operating reduced service because we were short on bus operators. Now we're actually back up to 100% on Go Durham side, where we begin expanding service at the end of this month with 2 more expansions in August and January. So we'll be offering 15-minute service in Bragtown. So that presents a whole different viewpoint. But that is, with our ridership though, we see that about, I think it's 86% have access to smartphone and apps. And the preferred method of communication is smartphone or SMS. Yes.
Well, I think you said the funding for the pilot was ended by Go Triangle. That's news to me.
They're ending their sponsorship. Yes, that doesn't mean that the program is still in the FY25 Durham County Work Plan that was just recently adopted. Yep, thank you very much. So really, we're just taking ownership of it. Yes. From Go Triangle, yes.
If everyone would use their microphones so it goes onto the recording.
Am I?
No, you're good, you're
Oh,
good.
okay.
But everyone who's like asking questions
Sorry.
and as a housekeeping, so to use the microphone, you press the on and off button. Only 3 can be on at a time. And if you need to move it down to be closer, do it from the bottom and the top. It is here. Right.
So I'm curious if this is intended to be a long-term solution. I assume it has some level of success, which is why, we push for that continuing in the budget. Does this help inform areas where there's transit demand that's maybe not visible, and help maybe inform decisions on expanding fixed route service? Is that data being collected? Is that being shared with folks? Or is this kind of intended to be long-term solution for these zones?
That's a great question. So it actually is a little bit of both. So what we're looking to do in the next year is pretty much a continuation of a pilot. And there for actually many reasons I'll go into in a few minutes. But we actually did a study back in 2019 pre-COVID, so circumstances have changed. But it identified, I think it was 5 zones throughout the city that were high propensity for microtransit. They were transit deserts. The fixed route would not work in those areas. And really, our focus is through the funding through the Durham County Transit Plan is to really increase frequency along our high frequency corridors. So we're talking Fayetteville Street, Holloway Street, Roxborough, University, Hillsborough Road, getting 15-minute service in all those corridors over the next 3 years. And then focusing more planning efforts, and there will probably a newer effort in FY26 to look at how we expand the zones. But we will also be able to collect data through what we're going to implement in September that will help inform our next procurement, where we go out to bid for our on-demand service, which I'll mention.
You've got a few slides left, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Why don't we go ahead and
Okay.
carry on with that, and we can do some more questions at the end. But these are great questions.
Yeah, they are. Hannah, would you mind? Thank you. So just to mention, we are currently reviewing financial and service models. The primary goal, providing Go Durham access and microtransit trips across a trip broker model, using a single platform or technology to manage reservations, scheduling, and eligibility of all of our trips and customers. The flow chart on the right here is actually the example of the complex logic we're working through right now. And this is just the trip scheduling. Basically is flowing through of the logic process. If someone is an ADA customer, do they have a mobility device? They need a lift equipped vehicle. Or do they meet the rules of the microtransit service? So we're building all of that logic. And we'll also include fixed route information so that customers can see if microtransit, for example, is not an option, but they're within walking distance of a bus route. It will actually pull data from our trip planning and real-time systems to provide bus information to the customer. So we're providing recommendations and best practices on service delivery and financial models, which will be for commingling our ADA paratransit, our microtransit, our county-funded on-demand services, using both dedicated fleets, which is the city-owned vehicles that our contractor operates, as well as non-dedicated fleets. So this can be a Lyft, working to incorporate our taxi cab partners here in the city. They've obviously seen a huge impact on their business from the TNCs. And while we are limited in what we can do from a administrative process, we can't enforce anything with TNCs. We can give the taxis opportunities to be involved in the Go Durham access service. This is something they do very well in Raleigh. They obviously have a lot more taxi providers, but they have access to the same platform for reservations and scheduling. And they could actually get additional business transporting our customers. So we're working through these considerations, including contracting, service delivery model, financial model, creation and management of rules, compliance with all local, state, and federal regulations, promoting and incentivizing shared rides, That's one of the keys that we're looking at. So right now, the current microtransit program is a lift ride. It is extremely convenient from a customer standpoint, but it is very costly for us and for Go Triangle right now. And it's a single ride. Lyft, nor Uber, nor Lyft provide shared ride service in this region. So they can only guarantee they're going to transport one person at a time. And so you're really being less efficient. So we're really trying to look at options that's going to promote shared ride and incentivize shared rides, but still offer customers the same level of service and freedom that they expect. So we're finishing the analysis right now, actually just wrapping up on a contract amendment that will go to City Council in May for our contract with National Express Transit, who is our contractor that operates the Go Durham Access Service. To begin the microtransit program as a pilot in September 1. If you go to the next slide, Ham.
Brian, just real quick, and would that be to keep it in the same two areas for now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are looking to keep it in the same two zones for FY25. This will also enable us to do more analysis, more modeling. We actually have just implemented a new online eligibility and applications platform. This was something that we heard through our paratransit task force, going through the process of being certified for Go Durham Access, whether you're ADA eligible or you're using one of the county funding sources, is very tedious. So we've actually just begun testing a new online platform and we'll also digitize our whole eligibility process. So we can shorten what can be up to 18 days right now to be approved because it goes through your healthcare provider as well. And that's in writing. You have to bring back a printed piece or mail a printed application back. The new system will actually send a link directly to the healthcare providers to allow them to digitally approve it. So we were looking to go from 18 days to a matter of 3 days to do the application process and eligibility certification. So that will actually be live in about 30 days. We also just kicked off last week a new reservations and scheduling platform that we're going to implement through our contract with National Express Transit. This is with Spare Labs. They're an on-demand reservation scheduling platform. So that we're working to get the Go Durham Access Coordinated System, which exists today, live in the system July 1. One thing we heard through our task force was the communications through the current platform are very poor. They're not reliable. For someone who is waiting for on-demand trip, the window can be 15 minutes before or after the time that they desire. And if you don't have good real-time information, and I've seen this with our task force, or just waiting outside City Hall with them and looking at the system, they're getting incorrect information via text or through the app. So we're moving to a new platform that really does this much better. It also will allow us to be able to administer across multiple service providers and across all the funding sources and rules that we have. The current system we have does not allow for that. So we're scheduled to go live July 1 for that. And then pending our contract amendment that we'll be bringing to City Council, we will be looking to implement the microtransit within the 2 existing zones on September 1st. So there will be a 2-month lag between when Go Triangle ends their program and when we begin. However, we felt we just didn't have enough time to really plan it adequately. And then finally, all of this will go to inform our next on-demand service RFP. So I actually had the privilege of spending the last year, first year here at the City of Durham, procuring our new bus service and focusing a lot on accountability. Our contract has many incentives and liquidated damages associated with the things we hear from customers, like stops and amenity condition, customer service, accessibility. We're looking to do the same thing for Go Durham Access. So we will be getting a consultant on board in July, and then we'll be going through pre-procurement activities all fall, being able to utilize some of this data from the microtransit, and then go out to bid for with an RFP in early January. And that will be for our next contract, which would be for 5 years and 2 one-year options that will begin September 1st of 2025. I know that's a ton of information, but I'm happy to answer questions now.
Mike.
For your brokerage model slide, what was UZURV, UZURV?
That's a great question. So USERV is what they call an adaptive TNC. Basically, they are a startup out of Richmond, Virginia, and they act like a TNC. They have local pool of drivers. However, they go beyond and meet the federal requirements for ADA. So their drivers actually get additional training on sensitivity with passengers with disabilities. They also meet all drug and alcohol requirements that are required by US DOT. So they provide, right now, it's a supplemental service, and they're utilized primarily for our long distance trips. So say we have a customer in Rougemont and they're traveling to Lions Club Industries and RTP. To be able to do that on our dedicated fleet and group them with other people is highly inefficient and costs more. So we could utilize the USERV service, which is about, I'd say about 60% of the cost per trip as our dedicated service. And so right now they operate about 19 to 20% of the Go Durham Access service. So they do a lot of long distance trips as well as overflow where we don't have capacity. And we are going to be continuing to utilize them through this new modeling. Actually, what's even better is that the Spare platform directly integrates with their platform. So we will actually have all of their data directly in the system to be able to analyze, make it easier for our customers with the real-time information. Plus, give our customers, we're going to be also looking at a pilot to enable some of our customers, possibly Ed, some of our other task force members, to opt in which service they want to use. Rather than us determine, let the customer decide. We want to start that kind of slowly and determine what that looks like from a scheduling standpoint, cost standpoint, and make sure we don't inadvertently make things worse.
You also mentioned in your decision tree that you take into account walking distance. Does walking distance consider there actually being sidewalks to walk on? Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's the difficult part. One of the things we were going through in this modeling, when you say microtransit, the previous zone was duplicating fixed route. Well, if you go to Bragtown and you try to walk, most of our bus stops are along the side of a road in a ditch. So getting to a stop is not easy, and it's also not accessible. So, can we look at it more from a service level and not a distance? So one thing we were exploring is saying, all right, if a customer is looking to get a ride wherever, if the next bus is within a certain distance, but also the next bus comes in less than 15 minutes, then they will get the option for fixed route for the bus. If it is not, they will also get the option for microtransit so that we actually can do that logic through the system.
One last question. You mentioned scooters and e-bikes. Do we have e-bikes?
We don't at this time, but so we actually have an update to our ordinance that is going to council in May as well. And we are looking to put out permit applications for new e-scooters, but we have a new mobility services planner. She actually worked with Hannah on the Bully Bike program here a year and a half ago. So that's also looking at how we incorporate e-bikes back into our micromobility program.
Okay, so I was wondering if so your Go Durham is basically taking over the Durham Connect. And I was just wondering if that at all affects like Go Triangle's emergency ride home offer. It doesn't, okay. They're still gonna.
That is a region-wide program through TDM, so that it will still remain in place regardless of who operates the service.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for Brian? Heidi?
Ed feels about
The question was how Ed feels about it.
No. Ed feels good about all of this. So I've been a micro transit user. I live in the north part of Durham, and I'll speak to that. I live within walking distance of Roxborough Road. It's about a mile, and to me that's fine. I like walking, and miles not too far. but I can't get out to Roxborough Road to get to the bus stop. That's the nearest bus stop because there are no sidewalks leading from my neighborhood out to Roxborough. So I use up until the emergence of the microtransit, I didn't really have options of I didn't have transit options where I live other than Go Durham Access. So some of my work I do at the North Regional Library. I've got kids in Riverside High School up in the north part of town. So the way Go Durham Access works, I need to schedule in advance. You can't call the same day to schedule a ride if you want to go to the library, if you want to go watch a lacrosse game at your kid's school. You got to do that in advance, and sometimes you don't know in advance 2 weeks out that what you're going to be doing. So it wasn't really a practical alternative for just general day-to-day transit. And microtransit came along and gave me the ability to take out my phone and decide I want to go today up to the library at 2 o'clock and do some tutoring or go see a kid's lacrosse game at Riverside High School. So that option was opened up to me as a person with a disability relying on public paratransit. Microtransit has become a really great alternative for doing a lot of things locally. I didn't mind when it changed from completely subsidized $25 limit to the $5 subsidy. That was fine. It seemed to make sense. And I didn't mind that. But anyway, it just afforded more opportunities to engage in the community and do things around town. So I'm a big fan of the microtransit, and I'm really pleased that the city and the county are working together on keeping it going after this initial run winds down at the end of June. As far as the work that Brian is describing going forward with improving paratransit service, I couldn't be happier. It's just the system has really been derelict. I mean, I know a lot of people who live with disabilities who rely on paratransit to get around, but they are making the decision to stay home because Go Durham Access is extremely unreliable, and having to make your reservations out as much as 2 weeks in advance, and then possibly having that ride canceled or delayed, or you're on to go 15 minutes from one point to another in Durham and wind up having to spend 2 hours on a bus. It really discourages people from getting out. So what Brian's describing is just opening up better options for people to fully engage in the community. So Ed feels very good about what's going on with the city and the county, and the county's transit, the money from the transit tax going towards improvements to paratransit is really a good thing. So.
Well said.
Sure.
So I'm looking at these zones for the microtransit right now, and I'm noticing that there are at least 2 high schools, if I'm not mistaken. There's Southern and Northern. And so I wanted to ask what the ridership has looked like among that block of riders, among that high school age group.
I don't want to speculate, so I'll respond with that answer. I have more totals, but I can pull that. I don't want to say what percentage of the total. We're looking at around, I think it's about 1,600 trips a month right now for both zones total. The North Zone does about 2/3 so far of the total trips, but I can pull that. The one thing that's difficult right now is through Go Triangle's contract with Lyft. Lyft is very protective of their data. And so when they provide origin destination data, they only do latitude, longitude to three significant digits. So basically that gives me just a general circle. Whereas if we were to incorporate Lyft through our new platform for microtransit, they actually have a license agreement with Spare. So we would get that granular detail and actually see the exact origin destinations. Granted, we could see a good sense of where people are, but it really is still limited. But I can make some general assumptions that there is a 1 mile radius around Southern High School, for example, that I can assume the vast majority are going there.
I see. Mainly wanted to ask whether that number was out there, whether that was something that
Yes,
y'all are.
and we
Okay.
can definitely provide that.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank
And
you.
we'll be happy to share, once we finalize all the data and recommendations, we're actually close with some of the other recommendations, such as travel training. So we're looking at best practices around the country for travel training and mobility orientation specialists. We actually have some resources here at Central and to assist residents, visitors with all the mobility options. So that's going to be one of our deliverables from the project, a few more. So we'll be happy to share all of that with the group.
And just a follow-up question about that 1,600 trips a month figure. How does that stack up with similarly sized systems like this across the country? Do you happen to know, have an idea?
Yeah, actually, we just did a presentation similar at our our North Carolina Public Transit Association last week. And my co-presenter was showing some of the different microtransit services that have recently emerged, one in the Tampa area, Florida, another in Texas. They vary greatly. It all depends. Some of them look at enormous zones, and it's really to cover a vast swath. But even those typically are pretty comparable to ours because they're much less dense, far fewer trips. Ones that are similar size and density in larger cities that we've seen, it's maybe 3 times the ridership monthly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ryan, Hannah, can you put the slide up again with the 2 zones? I just want to take a picture of those.
And while Carl's taking a picture of that, I was just wondering, when the e-bikes do come online, do you anticipate that there will be any need for policy development around that? Like, will the bikes be allowed on the ATT? And if so, is there going to be a change in what the current policy is, et cetera?
There would need to be.
And might this group weigh in on that? I'm guessing the answer is yes.
And the good thing is there are tools now that allow us to do much greater analysis and take into account some of those other factors and to assist in the policy development. But when it comes to the e-bikes, I think that's going to still take some time. Whereas the scooters, the dockless scooters, we already have 2 providers currently, and permits are open, I think, in early June for the next round. The rules and policy has been pretty straightforward, but there's a few updates I think that are going to come forward in the ordinance updates to council in May. But overall, that has worked pretty well, and we're just doing some minor updates.
Quick question, and apologize for my ignorance on the e-bike issue. When we're incorporating this is a pilot, right? Or is this we're implementing new policy regarding like e-bike services throughout the city?
It is to level some pilot, but there is a good bit of policy. There already is a fair amount of policy in the ordinance. This is just some updating based on best practice and new updates in coordination with our city attorney's office. So it is more policy driven, and then a lot of it is to update administrative processes. Right now, it is quite burdensome from an administrative side for how it's done right now. So we're cleaning that up, so it frees up more of our resources to be more involved in planning than in the day-to-day administration.
But I guess like what I'm trying to get at is, at least from a usability standpoint, what you would anticipate when this is rolled out is more akin to the way that the scooters are positioned and used throughout the city, rather than say what City of Raleigh does with their e-bike system, where there are set points along different bicycle and transit routes.
I think the ordinance update now is not addressing, but what the planning effort now is focusing more so on how we're distributing them equitably. And doing that across the city to make sure that we're not disproportionately providing more e-bikes to one location than another and making sure we have equitable access to the service.
But there won't be fixed points.
We don't know that yet. There, for the e-bikes, it could be dockless, which means it could be spread across. Then it just comes down to the policies with the actual companies who do the permitting and ensuring they collect those bikes, they're charging them. I think the city, this was prior to my arrival, they had not an e-bike, but a dockless bike program here. And it was, at least from my understanding, I'm still learning quite a bit in my first almost 2 years here, but it was highly burdensome. You had a lot of issues with damaged bikes, the vendors not really collecting them, putting them back out at appropriate locations. And so from my understanding, that those were the biggest drivers in that going away. But I'm sure there are people at this table that probably know that firsthand better than I do.
Anything else? These are great questions. Okay, well then we'll do something we don't get to do on Zoom, which is thank Brian.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to be here. I will provide that answer through Hannah on the trip amounts by location. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know we are. It's okay because we have a lot to talk about later. So. Okay. Moving on to the next item, that is committee and liaison reports. And our first committee report is for Triple E.
Hey, y'all. Hey, back here. So my name is Ideal and I'm the chair of Triple E. Nice meeting y'all in person again after our retreat. So for Triple E's meeting, we talked a lot about mostly Bike Durham, the Reimagine Durham Freeway outreach, Bike Durham, Bike Month, and working with Bike Durham, the freeway outreach, an idea for a scorecard, and some future volunteering opportunities that are coming up. So for the Bike Month events, there is one event that we are co-sponsoring that we've put some of our money to that y'all agreed to. Thank you so much last month. And the date for that event is going to be May 22nd from 6 to 7:30 at the Poof Teen Center in Woodlands Village, right next to that lovely bus stop that is the second most utilized bus stop in the city. And we're going to be screening a film called Biking While Black, and we'll be having a panel directly after the film and then some Q&A with the community. So we're excited, but we do need volunteers for that event because we will be having a bike valet there. And so if we could get some support for folks who can attend and help us make sure that everybody who bikes in is able to dock and go in safely. That does mean that there would need to be people willing to sacrifice some part of the event time to stay outside with the bike so that they are attended at all times. And so if there are any volunteers or takers, I'm looking at y'all.
It's a Wednesday?
Whatever May 22nd is, I think, yeah, it's a Wednesday.
We will have a specific call for volunteers later in this meeting, so come up with your excuses now.
Yes, exactly.
But we will put you on the spot later.
And so for the Reimagine Durham Freeway outreach, I'm outside of this room with my other hat. I am the engagement consultant that is working on that with the city. And an upcoming event that is on the Bike Month calendar is a ride called Biking to Connection. And it's going to take riders from Swift Avenue all the way over to Mike D's barbecue in a pattern that allows you to crisscross the freeway through as many underpasses or bridges as possible, as safely as possible. I see your face. And the idea is just giving people an opportunity to experience the freeway with a different vantage point, and hopefully that experience being able to inform people's ability to fill out the survey with a different kind of lens, a different kind of experience. If you're interested in filling out the survey, I have a paper survey available for you right here. Our next idea is about the scorecard. So we're looking at having different members of BPAC and possibly DOS and other community members volunteering to read a variety of plans so that we can do a little bit of accountability and just kind of checking in with staff about these various documents that have been created that address various ideas around biking and pedestrianism. We have all but 2 of those plans that we want to score accounted for, and I have a process that I've shared with all of you all, and I'm happy to sit with anyone who'd like to do it, but we'd like a volunteer for the Move Durham plan. And so if anybody could own that one, that would be great. That's the biggest one. And then the Trails and Greenways Master Plan, we're looking into having someone at DOS do that. But if you, there's a link that I can send everybody and make sure that y'all can sign up for that one. So everybody run, don't walk, run to adopt the Move Durham study. That'll be exciting. And like I said, you don't have to know everything about it. Just read through it, and we're going to crowdsource our idea of how we're going to score each of these plans so that there's some uniformity from plan to plan. So it'll be a collective effort. And then the last one is just, like you said, the volunteering requests that we have. So there's a few of them. There's a spreadsheet that's linked in the notes for Triple E, but mostly looking for, first and foremost, coming up Earth Day and Bike Valet for Earth Day. So want to put in a plug here, and that's my report so far. Yeah. We'd like to do it by the next Triple E meeting. And so, yeah, that's the second Tuesday from 6 to 7 of May. So that's May. I'm looking at the date in my notes. It's May 14th. The deadline, if you adopt it, is May 14th. Now, I'm going to say, when I opened up the Move Durham study, y'all know how this is, right? These designers and how they lay it out. It says 172 pages. Do not get scared by that. It's a lot of pictures. It's a lot of like table of contents pages, and then, like pictures, lots of pictures and graphs and pullouts. So don't be intimidated. It's not a book. Okay, it's not a book. It's a lot of empty pages that look like this. If you see that, okay? So don't be intimidated. It's probably half that length.
What's the date for the ride?
May 5th. And you can find all of the information for all of the engagement around the Reimagine Durham Freeway study. And our engagement campaign is called Pathways to Connection. You can look that up you can look up Reimagine Durham Freeway, and there's a project page. And the first 2 tabs at the very top, one says survey, the other one says engagement events. And you can join us. If you register for those events, it just helps us to add you to our contact list so that we can continue sending out reminders about upcoming options. When phase 2 comes along, we want to make sure we let you know all the good stuff. And we of course want you to enjoy the Durham community that we all live in, which we've worked very hard to partner with.
Thanks, Ideal. I think when I'm cleaning up the minutes for this meeting, I might look to you for input to include the links to all of those things in the minutes document. Brilliant. Thank you.
I just had 2 comments on that. One being that the Triple E meetings are now at 6:30. And we agreed to change them, I thought. Okay. Okay. I thought we had voted on it.
We did, but if our chair wants to do it that way, and I'm happy to let the chair set the meeting time.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we all agree of the time. Okay, that's fine.
But we do need to make sure that all our public facing records reflect that.
Yeah, so everyone's in agreement, 6 to 7?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then I also wanted to point out that the Move Durham Freeway bike ride, not Move Durham Freeway, Renew Durham Freeway, Reimagine Durham Freeway bike ride is also the Bike Durham Bike Month kickoff ride.
You see, like maximizing on those partnerships. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that because we will be ending our ride in the courtyard of the new business developments out there off of Driver with Mike D's Barbecue. I am working with Mike D to make sliders as yummy post-ride yummies if you fill out a survey.
It's a good incentive. Okay, thank you very much, Ideal. That was, and I will say, because I went to it, Triple E, it's an action-packed hour. Check it out if you have time. We got a lot done the last one, and I'm sure we will continue to do so. So, speaking of action-packed, DevRev, Scott.
Mike. Yep. So DevRev had a busy month. We had 7 plans that we reviewed, and then there were a couple more that were on the list that are falling over to the next month. I think we already have 4 or 5 for this coming month. So Durham is going through a lot of zoning changes, and lots of townhomes are being built. So there were 2 plans that were on Doc Nichols Road, which is near 98 and Sharon Road. One of them was called Doc Nichols Townhomes, and it's 4.5 acres with a plan for 25 townhomes. And the other one was called Heartland Park, 4 acres and 70 units. These are almost adjacent to each other. And so there are a bunch of other developments that we've seen in this area. So this northeastern part of Durham off 98, Sharon Road, is super busy with developments, you know, on every little square of land that's, you know, basically farmland turning into communities. What we asked for is sort of the standard stuff, multi-use paths on Doc Nichols Road and connections to adjacent neighborhoods. That's really the key there. So thank you, Marissa, for those. We also looked at Danube Lake Townhouses, which is at the intersection of Danube Lane and East Carver Street. This is up off of 85, further north and further east. It's 5 acres and 30 townhomes, and it's near the Cub Creek Trail. And so which runs through the property, and we asked for the developer to build the trail through that property. And there are also bus stops that are on the property or near the property. We asked for bus shelters to be built. And there are bike lanes on Carver Street, which is one of the roads that borders this property. And we asked for bollards to be added to the existing bike lanes. Danube is also a small road that's being widened, and we asked for bike lanes to be added on that. Next one is called Briar Creek Multifamily. And this one is near US 70 and Alexander, so a little bit east and kind of near Briar Creek and RTP. Most of this one, about 2/3 of it, was in Wake County, and so we made comments, but some of it may need to be reinforced by comments from Wake County. 17 acres, 408 units, so pretty dense. And Andrews Chapel Road is on the border of it. It will be widened, and we asked for bike lanes there and multi-use path. Let's see, we also had Lee Village, which is on near 54 and I-40 on the way to Chapel Hill. It is 85 acres and can't remember how many units, but it's very big, and it's going to be a mixed use project with residential, commercial, and some life science development, so some research. And we asked for, let me just go down this one. I did this one. So there are multi-use paths in various places. And there's also George King Road is a border of this, which is currently a gravel road. And so we asked, as this is developed, to put a bike lanes, protected bike lanes on that one. They're also realigning Farrington Road, which is another border, and we would ask for asphalt to be added to that to allow bike lanes 6 feet wide with a 2-foot buffer. There are some internal streets for that haven't been fully defined yet, but some of these may be a candidate for roundabouts, and so we suggested the use of roundabouts for safety and traffic management benefits. Another one was called 1202 Ellis Road, and this one was a small 1.25 acre with 20 townhomes on it. It's at the intersection of Ellis Road and Riddle Road on the corner. And it's very small, but we asked for Riddle Road and Ellis Road to have a multi-use path. There is a neighborhood across the street from Ellis Road that we asked for intersection improvement to be able to access that neighborhood. And there's also a good justification for a roundabout at that one. And so we suggested that. Some of these roundabout things are more likely to be accepted than others. And finally, there was one called Vivo Living Durham, which is one of the more interesting ones that we've had in a while. It is at the intersection of Interstate 40 and NC 55. So it is currently an extended stay hotel, and it is a couple hundred units, I think 150-ish units. And the developer wants to change this from a hotel into a condo multifamily living space. It's 2.3 acres and 126 units. So this one's already very developed with, parking lot and everything is already there, sidewalks and so on. We did ask for the sidewalk to be expanded to be a multi-use path. And there were a few other connections of the sidewalk to the property north of it that needed to be improved. But there wasn't a whole lot more we could ask for on that one since it's pretty much fixed. They're just converting from a hotel or, to apartments. So that gives you a flavor for what's going on with developments and rezoning. Lots of townhomes being built and big projects, small projects, and we're really pushing for all of our standard amenities to be added to really ensure that bike-friendly and pedestrian-friendly amenities will be included in these projects. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I saw a transmittal email this morning that we got a lot more incoming, so it'll be another busy month. Okay, that takes us to planning, implementation, and evaluation.
All right. This last meeting was just Mary and I, and then Brian for the first 15 minutes. So if you would like to come to the pie meeting, that would be cool. Mary and I did not feel the need to continue the meeting on Zoom after Brian left because we were in the same house. So this is mainly a report about what Mary and I talked about. But basically, the creation of a Vision Zero task force to assist Lauren Grove with the various Vision Zero needs. Lauren is interested in discussing the existence of a task force, but has not yet committed to the idea of how it should look. Additionally, she does want us to discuss BPAC's priorities for the first 2 years of the action plan that she's developing. And then in an email I sent out to you, we identified a number of things that could be potential priorities that we would like people's feedback on. There's also a Google Doc for it. And then another big takeaway is there is some effort to get a street design manual going for the city, like Raleigh has, like Charlotte has, like Minneapolis and Austin have. I don't know if Carl wants to talk about that when he talks, but I'll let him talk about doing that using NACTA's design guides and whatnot. And another thought that I had just now, never mind. Nope, that's it. There was one more thing. We also discussed the possibility with Brian of maybe recording subcommittee meetings for the YouTube channel like we do this meeting. We also learned that BPAC has the power to create any number of subcommittees, and one does not have to be a BPACer to be a member of the subcommittee, even a voting member. Both of these points were brought up in a discussion about how to get more public involvement because it was just the 3 of us. But if we wanted to create a task force as like a separate entity for the Vision Zero thing, or if we wanted to create a separate task force subcommittee entity for getting a robust street design manual going, because it would be the most, right now, the UDO rewrite is a very big opportunity to get a street design manual, because they should constantly refer back to each other in order for it to be actually used. So that's all for pie.
Nathan, if I could just jump in on that, yeah. So thanks for the idea about the street design guide. And certainly, as you mentioned, the UDO is a great time to get that sort of in the system. This is partly from my education too. I know we did have a meeting. Nate Baker primarily was the one who sort of called together a meeting of, actually Brian was there. Some of the, so Brian BPAC and folks from Bike Durham were there, along with folks from transportation, public works, maybe planning was there, maybe, or maybe, yeah, well, and Lauren, right, to talk through like, a lot of people, yeah, because there's obviously a lot of this stuff gets these sort of like interdepartmental kind of stuff, and so, maybe transportation wants to do one thing, but public works says we can't do it. So there's a lot of that kind of coordination that's not always happening, and so one thing that came out of that was this idea of adopting the NACDO guidelines, those are more like, that's more high level. Is that a different sort of angle than the sort of design guide? I just want to make sure how these two are sort of related or sort of different. And I should say also, I think the city at some point maybe adopted NACDO. Isn't that right, Brian? And so I think Nate's maybe going to update a resolution, maybe bring that back to the council to make sure we're clear that we've adopted NACDO standards. So I think that's on in Nate's court. But again, we'd love any of Nathan's thoughts on sort of how these two kind of related ideas kind of work together.
If I'm remembering that exchange correctly, that's a big if.
Yeah.
I think Durham is a signatory or whatever that would be to NACDO, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have adopted their guidelines as our own. I think that's the distinction, but if anybody else sitting at the table knows more about that, feel free to correct.
So I heard from Lauren earlier today that the plan is to, I forgot what word you used, but basically when we send something to city council to say, yes,
Like
we
a
want
resolution.
a resolution.
Yeah.
Thank you. To include a resolution, I'm assuming this year, to like formally adopt the NACDO guidelines as our city transportation design guidelines. But that would be different than like a street design manual. Because yeah, the NACDO guidelines are pretty high level. So they might not have specific guidelines for like speed cushions. But if we had something that was more like, what we were thinking of was more like, if this is how the street is being used, how should the street be designed? And so like, that would be applied anytime. I mean, it kind of would vary, but basically anytime the street would be resurfaced, we would need to account for those guidelines. So something like Raleigh has is like, these are our guidelines for new streets that don't exist yet. And these are our guidelines for streets that do exist, that we need to basically have their own complete street design. And it includes like stormwater runoff and stuff like that. And then it would be sent to city council kind of like with the resolution for the Vision Zero commitment. So they'd be separate resolutions, but sent to city council at the same time.
Good. Yeah, great stuff. Thanks.
Actually, Carl, you are next on the agenda. Did you have anything else from city council? That was a cool transition.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that. Well played. So this is my second meeting. So I want to make sure that what I'm sharing is the stuff you all need for BPACs. So what I thought I'd share today, and I've got 12 copies if you all wouldn't mind sharing them. Just a couple high level, this is sort of high level data. So, and you all may be aware of this, but what I'm sharing first is just so you all know what is in the CIP, the capital improvement plan, the city's budget for FY 2025. And I think I may have mentioned this on the last call, but I wanted to make sure you all had a chance to look at this. And we don't have to go through this line by line, but just so you know, like what's in the CIP for 2025, and sort of how much is funded, how much of the project is funded with the funding we're proposing. And again, this is all draft budget, so none of this has been approved, right? And so just high level, I want you to see that, the top thing on the list is the Durham Rail Trail. And so the total project cost you see there is 3.5 million. And the city's expecting to put the full 3.5 in the budget for next year. So that one is slated to be finished, we hope soon, right? And then you'll see there's a bunch of other projects on there, including like new sidewalks. That's a total project cost like 37 million. We're only putting 1.1 million in. So most of these are not fully funding these, but are providing some amount of support. So a couple things to note on here, like there's East Club Boulevard sidewalk was one. You'll note some of these are a little bit hard to read, but if you go to I think the transportation department, you can figure out what some of those numbers mean. I want to note, for example, if you look about halfway down, so Mangum Roxborough signals for two-way conversions. So that two-way conversion, and I had a long conversation with the Trinity Park Neighborhood Association about this last week. So the plan is the total cost for Mangum Roxborough one-way conversion to two ways, right, would be $6 million. The city transportation department is proposing $500,000 next year just for the design. And then in fiscal year 2026, which starts like July of 2025, would be the rest of the 5.5 million to actually fund the work to do that. So that project is on, so it's very much a priority, but it's still probably a couple years out. The thinking on the part of Sean Egan and the rest of the folks in transportation is that they sort of want to use the Roxborough Mangum conversion as a proof of concept with DOT that we can do this with them and do it well. And then right after that, the plan would be to put in the budget for fiscal year 26 design work for Duke Gregson. And then the following year, fiscal year 27, the actual funding to convert Duke and Gregson to two-way streets. So that's kind of the trajectory of what's happening with the one-way pairs.
And then
I know that folks want to do this faster, and I do as well, but this is what staff is proposing. Sorry, Nathan.
is the plan then to do the loop after that? The downtown loop?
So I don't think the loop is I think the loop is maybe in some plans. I don't know if there's any funding yet for the loop conversion. But I know, ideally I know some of this. I know there's also there's the Destination Durham or the downtown or the Discover Durham plan. Is that part of one of the ones you're reviewing?
No, we're not reviewing that. That just came out in the plans that we're reviewing on our scorecard. So I'll take this in two parts. The plans we're reviewing have at least a few years on them. So there's something to gauge in terms of progress. Whereas if it was newly minted, it would be really hard, I think, to be fair to those plans. So that's what you'll notice that the plans that we have gotten reviewers for, we're like, oh, we're going to move ahead with these because these have a few years of time elapsed on them so that we can see how that's been evolving. Destination Durham is not, I'm meeting with them soon. To my knowledge, I don't know anything about that tool. I don't know anything about what they asked. And I have not had a chance to see their raw data to understand how or why they have arrived at the recommendations and conclusions that they have. My questions to them when I go and meet with them will be about the demographics of their data, what did their survey tool look like, and can I have access to the raw data?
Are you talking the loop or the freeway?
Destination Durham has recommendations about both.
Okay, freeway cap as well as the loop, yeah. Okay.
But we have to be careful here because those were not studies sanctioned by the city of Durham's transportation department, and their methodology around community engagement has yet to be seen and evaluated by me, from what I understand. And there are ways that I look at this stuff. And so part of the reason I'm sitting with them is because if there's raw data that applies to the study, then we will, of course, include it. I cannot attest to the quality of their methodology. That's what I will say. And we have to be clear that one is a tourism organization and has very specific goals and desires. And those things might be different than people who live in a city permanently. Let's be clear about those things.
You know, I'm just trying to respond to the question, like, is the downtown loop next? So I think there's groups that have talked about it, but it's not, I don't think it's in any, it's not funded in any plan right now. So,
Right.
but it's definitely been talked about for a long time and.
Yeah, the loop
yeah.
and the freeway are different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's other things here. As you can see on this list, and some of these are like smaller dollar things, guest road improvements. Actually, notice school zone speed reductions. That's also in the plan, which is kind of a cool thing. Neighborhood bike routes, bike lane vertical protection, and then some Vision Zero safety initiatives. So there's some good stuff in the CIP. I should also note that there's also separately. So this again, this is kind of funded with bond funds. There's also like, I think 10 or 15 million for sidewalk improvements in the actual budget too. And again, those are all proposed. So like having you all advocate to like make sure that it's in the budget would be really important. So any questions about this part?
How can we best advocate to make sure those things end up in the budget?
You can email city council at, I think it's like city council only at durhamnc.gov. You can also attend so there was one budget hearing last month. I think the final budget hearing is maybe June 3rd. I can check the schedule. I think it's June 3rd. Is the second budget hearing. The manager's budget will come out, I think, sometime in kind of mid to late May, and that will be publicly available. Yeah.
For the school zone projects, it's got like 310,000. Is that like because it's going to be staged?
That one, I can check into that. I know it's in the list. I think it's sort of, yeah, it looks like about a third of the cost. So I don't know, but I can check with Sean on that if you want. And I'll check with Sean to see if there's more. I don't know how much of this is on something I need to learn if it's on the transportation website or not. So I'll try to learn more about where folks can kind of see these projects on the website.
Can anyone here clarify which routes specifically are neighborhood, or at least what part of town neighborhood bike routes 2 and 3 are, or where that information could be found?
You should be able to look that up on it's probably under Public Works on the city's website for each of these projects. So it says like LC 620. You should be able to look that up. Yeah.
Thanks.
I also had a question, which was some of these say new beside them. Does that mean that because some of these I recognize from being something that city transportation requested be added to the CIP. So I was wondering if new meant that they have been added since then, or is it just there? Like it doesn't mean anything.
I think it's new sort of, so not sort of, not sort of replacement kind of stuff, but like new projects as opposed to maintenance. I think that's what that is.
Any other questions for Carl before we move on?
So can I do a second one?
Any more stuff from Carl before we move on? How
exactly.
about that?
The same thing I got, if you could share these things. So this is hot off the presses. So this just got released on Friday and will be discussed on Thursday at the city council work session. So the manager and staff are proposing, one for, here, look on with me. The manager and staff are proposing, well, actually, maybe back up. So at the budget retreat, there was a presentation from the city for a bond issue that could have been as much as $600 million in bonds, including convention center, green infrastructure stuff, sidewalks, streets, parks, whatever. And so the managers now scale that back, and there's a proposal that city council will have to act on, but a proposal for roughly $200 million in bonds for this fall. There would be simply streets and sidewalks and parks. And so what I have here for you is the list of projects that would be the $60 million that would, if this is approved, $60 million in new sidewalk projects for Durham. And essentially this is to kind of like, we've got to, as you probably all know, we've got this big, huge backlog of sidewalks we want to build that we don't have the money to build. And this is a way to kind of catch up a little bit to try to address the incredible backlog of sidewalks we have. So, and you can see here, some of these are brand new projects. Some of them, like for example, East Coast Boulevard is a way to fund some of the stuff that's in the CIP we just talked about, but needs more funding, right? So East Coast Boulevard sidewalks is on there, but also Hillendale Road bicycle and pedestrian stuff, Marine Road, LaSalle Street, North Duke Street, NC 54 sidewalk, and others on there, Cornwallis Road. So there's some interesting stuff there that would be funded by a bond that would go to the voters in November. So I think we have to decide by, I think it's sometime in May, because we have to go to the local government commission to get them to sign off, and then sort of, yeah, so like, I think we're on a pretty fast timeline on this. So, but this is all important stuff, yeah. And again, I'm sure Brian's question, so how do we, you know, come to the work session if you like on Thursday, make sure you're there at the budget hearing on June 3rd. Again, I'll check the date on that to advocate for the bonds there as well. And email your city council members and the mayor.
Hey, thank you very much. And actually, this list of projects helps me with my homework for the report card project. So,
good. And also, and just one last thing to say too is that, you know, this is the high level, like, I mean, so where the rubber hits the road is like, it's funding, it's projects, but the delivery is also key, right? And so I know a lot of what's kind of got people frustrated. I think that the manager and the council hears this is people want, like sidewalks are like probably the top thing when we do our annual survey of residents, right? It's like not only sidewalks, but delivering on sidewalks and delivering on projects. So this is a way to catch up on that delivery, but we'll have to keep working to make sure we do this as quickly as possible. So.
You might end up being a keynote speaker at one of the meetings that we want to have that are public facing. So I know BPAC is committed to hosting at least 1 or 2 meetings in a more sort of public, open face kind of like town hall style, so that people don't have to come here or be on Zoom. But we're thinking in September's meeting, doing that possibly at a place like maybe the public library and in that nice, beautiful auditorium. It's so pretty. And so it would be lovely for, you know, by then, hopefully some movement has happened and there can be some really great things to say about our scorecard that include things like this.
So is this helpful stuff?
I think it's great, but I will throw that question to everybody else. Is there something additionally or instead of you'd rather hear?
I would appreciate it if you could email these to us.
Yeah. Yep, we'll do that.
Good point.
Website, it looks like it might be, public hearing will be held Monday, June 3rd.
That's the one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
June
Thank you.
3rd. That's June
Thanks
3rd
for
for the
confirming.
last budget hearing, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay,
Great. Thanks.
thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. We move on to the county. Heidi.
You know, really the county's decision-making and investment that's relative to your work has pretty much been done for this year, because we just did approve the fiscal year 25 work program for how we're going to spend the transit tax dollars in order to implement the Durham County Transit Plan, right? And so you all, I think I sent links to that last time, if you want to review that. But one thing I did want to lift up from that work program that might be of interest as you all continue to find good ways to track progress on projects that you're interested in, is that the work program Ellen Beckman is developing with a consultant, a transit tracker to help us track these projects. And I think it's going to be really good. There'll be sheets for, you know, some sort of sheet for each project with metrics. And some of these are further along than others, but, you know, it might be something that you all could, I don't know, look into doing. And maybe that is kind of what you are doing with your comments related to the plans. But if the staff, you know, had actual work project sheets with a transit tracker kind of framework, it might be something that could be really helpful. Anyway, that's really it for me tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions around that?
I do have one. What about the Roxborough Rail Trail? Any update on that? I know that's a
No
big.
update, but still in the works.
Yeah.
Definitely in the works. And I feel more optimistic about it than I ever have. Like, we're applying for a grant, you know, to make it happen.
And I think it's on the MPO's list of projects.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. Yep. That we're still working on, but there's really no update, is that Ellen is also spending a lot of time, you know, seeking out federal funding opportunities to make improvements at railroad crossings where people are getting killed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can move on to Duke.
Yes, I had just pulled something up and I had moved away from it. 1 second. Okay, so the draft plan was that Alta made of bike and ped improvements for Duke was presented to senior administrators and it was received with positive reaction. Atla is now working on cost estimates for projects and our own project managers are looking at striping improvements in relation to current projects. Duke has no plans for further engagement at this point, but things are on hold to give Alta some time to do cost estimates. So things are moving on that, just extremely slowly. And then also a local student organization created their own crosswalk on Swift Avenue. If any of you have gone by and seen a crosswalk made of green tape, that was some upset students who are annoyed that they have to risk their life every time they go to the grocery store who live on Swift. So if you want to check that out, I don't know if the tape is still there, but they did it a couple weeks ago. And that's it.
I think I can't officially sanction that here, but I do think it's cool. Thank you for that update.
What else regarding the green tape?
I heard nothing from nobody. So the tape is, they did tape because it's not like, you can't really accuse them of vandalism because it's just it's gonna be gone in a week.
Possibly
From
littering.
cars going over it. Yeah, you could maybe accuse them of littering is about as much as you can accuse them of, so. There was no official response. I have asked them to apply for the youth position. The group, I like messaged them and I was like, someone should do this.
Stay on them, because I would like to bring that energy here if possible. And clearly they care, which is really what matters.
Is this the intersection that crosses Main Street or an intersection to cross Swift?
I don't know. I haven't gone by. All I have is a grainy nighttime picture of people putting tape down on Swift Avenue.
I will say, I think it is bringing some attention to the area. My wife thought it was an actual project the other day. She was like, oh, there's this cool green like crosswalk. And I was like, what are you talking about? So there is attention.
That's why it works.
I was gonna say, I will say that I've brought up the Swift Avenue lack of crosswalk to transportation before. So I don't know. I think the issue is that it's not currently on any like plans. And possibly the train right of way causing conflicts, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have one. Those were issues brought up.
From what I've heard, they're more bothered by the 147 on ramps crossings
Yeah,
than
that
they
makes
are
sense.
the railroad track.
Could you say that on mic, please?
They may want to say something and submit comments to the Reimagine Durham Freeway Study Survey. So send that to them too.
I will forward it to them after you send it to us.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Okay. NC Central?
Not many updates, but I was brought in on a conversation with transportation colleagues at the university to discuss the possibilities of a pedestrian bridge going across Fayetteville Street from the residence halls onto the main campus, right at the intersection of Brant and Fayetteville, as they are thinking about building new residence halls, and there are a few more construction projects on that side of Fayetteville. They wanted to see what the feasibility of having a pedestrian bridge for students to cross over directly, as opposed to having to wait in the crosswalk for stoplights and traffic. Fayetteville is a very busy street, as we all know. So just wanted to kind of introduce that and get some support on whether or not that's even possible. I know it would entail some large scale project making, but I just wanted to be able to report back that was or was not something that we could work on.
So you said you were in a meeting on that. Did you get a sense of what the action was coming out of that?
Meaning,
Did people say, yeah, we support it, or we need to make a plan, or we need to do a study, or?
I think there was support to see if it was possible, right? To see if we could even do it, and then to take that information back and develop a plan around that. Because I know that specifically, they were trying to get it to cross over into this reservoir of gardens. It's like Centennial Gardens that they have. So just kind of how that would work with, you know, the street and the project that in itself. But yeah, they would certainly support it if it was possible. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Landon.
Was at any point in that conversation, was it brought up what the city's trying to do with the redesign of Fayetteville Street?
Mentioned briefly, for sure. Yeah.
That's
and be a bridge more so than a tunnel, because I know that like in a ton of the state funded universities, like that's normally the thing of choice. But I don't know if that was a discussion of like all the utilities that run up under Fayetteville Street that would make that difficult or not.
Right, certainly, because I think the bridge was what was brought up initially, because going to the other side, there runs this underground like reservoir of water that is there, so that would make the tunnel parting difficult. Yeah.
Okay, great. Please stay across and let us know how we can help advocate as needed. We've certainly had things to say about Fayetteville Street in the recent past, particularly things that were going to happen and didn't. So this sounds like it could be a great amenity, particularly for the students. So, Carl,
Also,
yes,
it's DeAndre, right? Royal, yeah. Did you hear about the path? It was somewhere near Central that someone like built a fence. Did you hear about this at all? Remember this? I saw some chatter about this with the city manager. So there was somebody in the neighborhood around Central built a fence over a bike path. I think it must be, maybe that's coming up from like Elmira Park or something that way, maybe. And so it was like it was a resident who was like, I think, concerned about safety or some people walking by or whatever. So they literally built a fence on top of the path. So the city attorney and saying they're all working sort of like to get this thing going, but it's yeah.
Yeah,
Fortunate.
Carl, I hadn't heard about that, but thank you. If you could give me a specific location or someone to talk to, I'd love to hear about.
Let me track down the email on that. Yeah.
Did you say Branch Street for the bridge?
Correct, Branch Street.
Okay, thanks.
cool.
But just to clarify, it would be across Fayetteville Street, but Branch Street and Fayetteville kind of butt.
Okay, see, our DOST rep isn't here tonight, so that goes to a new item on this, which is Vision Zero, Mary Rose. Did I get you off guard?
I attended the meeting and I forgot that I would need to do an update. So no update.
No problem. No problem at all. We will look forward to the next one. And this actually, amazingly, we have lost all the time we made up on the short presentation, so we need to get on with it anyway. Which takes us to old business. Do we have a way to put the list of the topics on the agenda up on the screen, Hannah? Please. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to mention some stuff that particularly we talked about in that EEE meeting. Or you can look at your agendas in front of you on paper if you like. If you look on the third page, we're trying to keep a running list of our speaker topics. Again, you see the table is actually pretty well populated with at least tentative stuff. I guess the first question is actually for that June meeting. Hannah, have you had any contact with Hannah Wilson from DDI since that first? Yeah, okay, we should follow up with her. Heather Wilson, sorry. Sorry, I'm looking at one thing and anyway, yeah. Okay, so we'll follow up on that. That's a tentative topic for the June meeting. July, we have no meeting. August, we are maybe going to talk to the NCDOT, but I wanted to jump ahead to, first thing was that Ideal already mentioned possibly using our September guest slot and maybe possibly even the bulk of the meeting to hold a more public facing town hall event to talk about our work on the scorecards. Which is kind of also to give ourselves a deadline on that. I know there was some question in that conversation about whether we are allowed to convene in places other than this room and Zoom. Did we figure that out yet, or do we need to still do that?
We still need to figure it out.
Okay. And the person or persons with whom we check that is the city clerk, county clerk?
City and county clerk.
Okay.
Yeah, both of them.
We have met, I'm sorry. We have met outside of this room and Zoom in the past. Like we had a public facing meeting where we met with the participatory budgeting folks. We did something with the untokening that was elsewhere, right? Adil? Yeah, so I based on experience, it would seem that we can go outside this room and Zoom.
So we can dot i's and cross t's to be sure, but it sounds like we can move in that direction.
Been done before.
Yeah, it's just
it's
about
been done.
notice more than anything
Notice,
else.
got it.
Mhm.
Okay, great. That's good to know. The other thing that's kind of new to this list is, which I think Ed brought up earlier, which was getting an update on the transportation section of the comprehensive plan update, since that's relatively new. And again, thinking of that being a pretty large event for the November meeting. So yeah, if we kind of stick to this, we really only have one more slot to fill this year. So if anybody's got any thoughts or any things they really urgently want to get in before 2025, let me know. But we're doing a pretty good job of staying ahead of this. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a question about the August topic. So would this be a similar meeting, if folks remember when DOT came to speak with us sometime last year? I'm struggling to remember what month that was exactly, but if people are remembering,
Yeah.
Would it be a similar meeting to that one?
Actually, my goal is specifically for it not to be very similar to that, and be more of an opportunity for us to speak to NCDOT rather than for them to present to us.
Okay, that's part of the reason why I was going off the assumption that it was going to be similar.
Yeah.
And to voice support for choosing one of these other topics in lieu. But if it's a different kind of meeting, then I'm a little more open to the idea.
Yeah, understood. And we need to maybe do some pre-meeting discussions around that to make sure that they understand that, and that's the expectation. And of course, that we're not going to catch them off guard. We're going to be firm, but we will be kind. So I think that's.
Put that on a shirt.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I was going to say that there's definitely some opportunities for like updates on some of the plans. Like Lauren Grove intends for there to be stuff completed by the end of the year for Vision Zero. So it might be good to just hold that space empty. One, in case we need to move around any of these other things to that month in order to get an update earlier, or to just have that update happen in December.
You know, and my understanding is Lauren's timeline for that action plan is the end of the calendar year. So that might be a good, I actually like just holding it with that in mind. Anybody have any thoughts on that or objections to that? Okay, it's well, it's pen, but metaphorically penciled in on my sheet right now. So, okay, great. We'll move on from that then. The next item, actually, I'm going to skip the walk audit letter and cover some of these other things first. We'll come back to the letter. Volunteers, I warned you. Most proximate event, Earth Day, Sunday, not this Sunday, but the one after, correct? Oh, it is this Sunday.
This Sunday.
See, okay, I knew it was urgent.
Yeah.
What are your current
From-
volunteer needs?
From 12 to 5, and you don't have to be there the whole time. But if you can make it an hour, 2 hours, just let me know which hour you can make it. We're doing bike valet. I'll of course be there with other volunteers as well. We need more than just 1 or 2 people though, because we do want to do the bike valet, but also we want to be pushing this out to as many people while they're there. So Earth Day is not a Bike Durham thing, but the partnership to offer bike valet at Earth Day has traditionally been a BPAC / Bike Durham collaboration, as good friends and just wanting to support the event. So yeah, and it feels like Earth Day is one of those events that just feels like a big Durham reunion. So it's fun.
How would we sign up on the Bike Durham site?
No, you can just tell me.
They have slots and stuff like that. I mean, normally it's like.
They do. They sent out a volunteer request. I can send that link out to you.
Have the volunteer request. I didn't.
Mhm.
Should have- So you're suggesting I should just go to the Bike Durham site and sign up there?
You could, yeah, yeah. I was just offering it as a kindness that I could just let John know by text that 4 people are coming from PPAC, but you are happy to do that. Yes. You're welcome.
I just want to add for that, I'm already signed up for 2 slots that day, but it's the 2 later slots for bike valet, but I'm happy to come early. There wasn't a slot available in the morning, I think. They only had like 2 slots for each
Oh. Well,
block.
I don't think they have them more. It's 12 to 5, so.
Can't remember how it was oriented, but I think there was like 3 blocks, if I remember right. And I did 2 of them, but the morning one already had, or like I say morning, the earliest one already had 2 people, but if you need more people for handing out stuff, I'm happy to do it. There just wasn't another slot.
Come on. I'm
Okay.
gonna, it's an
I'll plan
open
to go and be there like right when it starts.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Ideal, would you prefer that on our socials, that we push the Bike Durham
Yes.
volunteer site?
Please do, since
Okay.
that's an easy way for them to drop in their information. That's great.
Got it.
They're more prepared to do that than we are.
Okay, and the other event for which you need volunteers is the Biking While Black film event, correct?
Yes, we will need that. So we've got a little more time.
A little more time. Can we do maybe a quick show of hands? Anybody planning to be there for the May 22nd event? I'm gonna be there, yeah. Okay, so it looks like you got.
Nathan,
Good.
Chris, are you coming?
I got it.
Remind me your name.
I'm Chris Perlstein.
Okay, Chris, thank you. Sorry.
No worries, I'm brand new. This is literally my first day.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
no wonder.
Oh, sorry, you missed the
Well, not
introductions.
knowing-
You missed the
I
introduction. I'm so
not
sorry.
knowing who you were, I was like, I hope to God I have
No,
not
no.
been watching this man's
It's not on you.
square with his name for 4 years and I can't freaking remember. Okay. Thank you for releasing me from that
You
shame.
could have very easily convinced her, Chris. Is what I'm learning.
Okay, great. All right.
I'll probably attend.
Cool. Great.
Ideal, one last question about that event on the 22nd. Who is the primary entity that's hosting that event?
It is part of the Bike Month offering. And so we're co-sponsors along with probably like 3 other organizations.
Does that include Bike Durham?
Yes, Bike Durham, BPAC, my firm, and Just Communities is also.
Okay.
And Phillips's firm is also co-sponsoring.
Okay. In that case, I'll check to see if Bike Durham has a similar volunteer sign up. Or we don't need the same level of volunteers for that event that we would Earth Day?
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, then I'm mainly just gonna push that event is happening and that we
Yes.
can attend. Yes.
Excellent. And I know I still have to get with you about joining the things. Yes.
That's actually also a good transition to the next item, which was we did approve funds for Biking While Black, and then we also said we put whatever we didn't spend on that towards the bike racks for the bike valet. Those do cost a little
Yeah,
bit
let's
more.
just buy a whole rack instead of,
Okay.
yes, let's just buy a whole rack and then whatever's left over.
You're good with that?
Yes,
Okay.
no problems.
Okay.
I
I just
can
wanted to
share
make sure
well.
because we committed. So
Yes, no, it's fine.
awesome.
Yeah, if there's some difference, I'll pay the difference. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Tick that right off. Hopefully that didn't go too fast for anybody. That was, any questions about that?
Do we need to motion and vote about that?
Yeah,
Or
I
are
make a
we-
motion that we first buy a bike rack with our remaining fund, a bike valet with our remaining funds. And then whatever we don't spend on the bike valet rack, we use to co-sponsor the Biking Wall Black event.
I second that, but I can't restate it.
That's $330, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah, we're talking about a $30 difference of what we're spending.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
So that was seconded by Nathan. All in favor of that amendment to our budget plan?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. Going back.
I will say too, though, we do need to use the funds earlier than we thought. And so it'll be before I leave. We got to figure out how to do the donation. I don't know if you have like a way to accept a P card or what, but we'll need to do that this week.
Just making a note about that. Okay, the agenda item I skipped was the redrafted walk audit letter concerning the road diet for North Roxborough Street. This is kind of lengthy. I sent it around ahead. A lot of people have looked at it, made comments. So thank you to all of you. You know who you are. We generally read these. I don't know if that's a requirement, but I am happy to do it. It will just take a few minutes. So if we need to read this, I'm going to maybe need a motion to extend the meeting by about 10 minutes to cover everything else. Does anybody have any thoughts on reading or not reading the letter?
I feel like we should read it for the record.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay, then
Wait, I moved to add 10 minutes to the meeting.
that was Mary Rose.
I second.
That was Nathan seconding. All in favor of extending this meeting by 10 minutes if needed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll go to 9:10, but we'll try to finish early. Okay, here's the letter. Strap in. Dear council members, commissioners, and staff members, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, BPAC, presents the following recommendations regarding improvements to North Roxborough Street north of I-85, including the case for a road diet, protected bike lanes, sidewalk buffers, and street trees. BPAC asks that all recipients respond to these recommendations and present a plan to realize the changes needed. As communicated in the attached write-up, BPAC conducted a walk audit and community outreach of the North Roxborough Street corridor north of I-85 through in 2023. Also attached is the 2022 report delivered by the VHB consultants, which highlighted in detail the multiple dangers to pedestrians along this corridor. The overwhelming consensus of our audit, the VHB report, and the members of the community who responded to our survey, 110 respondents, is that the design of North Roxborough Street is dangerous. North Roxborough Street requires significant redesign, specifically one with a design speed to match the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit posted. There's a footnote to that. The scope of our walk audit was limited to the section of Roxborough between Lavender and Bon Air Avenues, most of which is posted as 25-mile-per-hour zone. However, we note that the scope of the proposed redesign would likely need to extend from at least Club Boulevard to Old Oxford Highway to be effective, and that this redesign would also need to include extending the 25-mile-per-hour limit along the entirety of the corridor. Indeed, the inconsistency in posted speed limits and lack of commensurate designs are core elements of the safety problems in this corridor. Into footnote. We call upon NCDOT and the city to work together to develop and implement a comprehensive design to eliminate the dangerous speeding and pedestrian conflicts along this vital corridor. The case for a 4 to 3 lane road diet. Federal Highway Administration notes that 4-lane undivided highways have inherent design aspects that make them susceptible to crashes. Left turning and through movements sharing a single lane contribute to rear end crashes, left turn crashes, and speed discrepancies. In most cases, current 4-lane undivided cross sections do not include accommodations for bicyclists, and most have no refuge for pedestrians to cross 4 lanes of traffic. 4-lane roads are dangerous and offer limited or no capacity over 3-lane roads. Below is a summary of the case made by Jeff Speck in his book, Walkable City Rules. The turning lane is also the passing lane. Drivers speed in the same lane where drivers are stopping to turn left. Drivers that jockey right to avoid stopped vehicles are often rear-ended. Cars turning left can be T-boned by oncoming cars whose views are blocked by parallel traffic. A 4 to 3 lane road diet consists of taking 2 car lanes that travel in each direction and reducing them to 1 lane that travels in each direction and a middle turn lane. This significantly improves the experience of left turns for drivers, provides more consistent reduced car speeds, and provides opportunities for pedestrian islands. Overall, this type of road diet is expected to reduce crashes between 19 and 47%. For example, following implementation of a 4 to 3 lane road diet on Edgewater Drive in Orlando, total collisions dropped 40% and injuries dropped 71%. We have a citation for that. Common response to the idea of this road diet is that the traffic volume is too high for a road diet, but we urge NCDOT to run these analyses again and to map out the trend over the last 10 years on this corridor. Even before 2020, average annual daily traffic counts have been trending downward. Again, a citation. Furthermore, there is good evidence, citation, that a 4 to 3 lane road diet has marginal impact on road capacity. 4-lane roads create wave pulse congestion because the passing lane is also the turning lane. Drivers going straight have paths blocked, and cars jockeying from lane to lane create wave pulse congestion that impacts that slow traffic. Also, a Nelson Nygaard study of 23 4 to 3 lane road diets demonstrated that capacity on these streets did not actually decrease. Did not decrease. Our proposed solution. Simplest, least expensive, and fastest embodiment of this road diet could be implemented by restriping with minimal or no additional construction and with addition of on-street parking to serve businesses along this corridor. BPAC would welcome this as a significant, albeit minimal, improvement. This change would also bring the design and use of this section of Roxborough in line with another 40-foot wide street in Durham, 9th Street, which hosts a vibrant community of businesses accessible by users of all modes of transportation. We believe implementing this design on North Roxborough Street would serve to make this neighborhood a destination and a usable place for its residents, rather than simply a conduit for car traffic. In addition, we also urge NCDOT to consider the following components of a more comprehensive redesign. Curb-protected bike lanes. This will enable multiple communities on both sides of Roxborough Street to access grocery stores without a car, significantly reducing the individual need to have a car for local trips and a large fraction of local car traffic. Sidewalk buffers and street trees. Street trees provide a low-cost way to reduce car speeds, provide shade, reduce noise pollution, protect sidewalks, improve pedestrian comfort, and increase property value. We believe this corridor has significant potential to become a thriving urban center, much like it used to be. Bragtown is a historically underserved neighborhood, and a strong investment in placemaking here will serve the interests of both economic development and equity, in addition to improving safety and enabling more sustainable transportation options. There is latent demand for walking and biking along this corridor, but first we must make this corridor safe and accessible. The members of the communities along this corridor are passionate about improving this space, and it is time that the city make good on its commitment to Vision Zero and for NCDOT to prioritize saving lives on North Roxborough Street and making it a place for people. Please feel free to reach out to BPAC with any questions, comments, or concerns at our email address. That's it. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. That's a good letter.
Thank you.
Agreed.
There were many hands involved.
Can I ask a question about, will it be an opportunity to have this discussion though, when they come in August? Like, can that be part of the discussion?
I mean, I don't see why not, and it's a good reason to get the letter to them now.
I would even include that as part of the letter because it feels like there should be some, like, we should have a discussion about it. Like, not just here's a letter and here's our, let's continue that conversation and see where it goes.
Would it be fair to call that an invitation to a discussion, or should I be more specific?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I need to go through another round of full edits before that to vote on this, I think, if that's okay. If anyone wants to make a motion to that effect.
Ryan, just one question. Yep, go ahead.
No.
Just one question. As you were thinking through different options for, I mean, I think it's a great letter, by the way. Thanks for doing it. And I think that can be a really, I mean, it's such a neglected commercial corridor. It could be a much more vibrant one. Did you give any thought to the whole idea of trying to like city to take over Roxborough from the state? Because that's also, that's it. We haven't done that a lot, but it's certainly an option that we, and there's been talked about for Roxborough, Mangum and others, Duke Gregson, that we just kind of swap, with the state.
It's certainly something we've talked about internally. I don't recall specifically in our walk audit discussions whether we addressed that. I think when we invite NCDOT to a conversation, that could be something we discuss. We should also have the city involved with that, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think maybe adding it to this letter would maybe be overburdening it, but
but just something to think about.
Absolutely.
Because like the solutions get much easier if we control the road, obviously.
Well,
So,
and in going back to the last time we had someone from NCDOT here, which I think may predate your time here. The one useful that came out of that conversation, in my opinion, was when the fellow from NCDOT said, in pretty much in no uncertain terms, if you really want this stuff, you're going to have to take over the roads. I think he was pretty clear about that. And I certainly see that as a worthwhile goal for us to pursue. So, any other thoughts? If not, could I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve this letter?
Second.
It was Andres with the motion and Suzanne with the second.
With the clarification that it's a motion to adopt the letter with Suzanne's edit.
Yes.
The addition of the invitation.
Yes, to approve the letter as written with an invitation to a discussion added on the end. Or somewhere in there. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion carries. And thank you again to everybody that contributed to this. It was a big effort. Okay. We have one new item of business, which came up earlier. Talking, and this is a little vague, so we probably don't need to spend too much time on it. But some options for how we could run subcommittee meetings in such a way to make them particularly more accessible to the public. And one of them is to record them. We're having them on Zoom anyway, so that's an easy thing to do. Does anybody have any strong feelings, pro or con, about recording subcommittee meetings?
I mean, I think it would be useful, especially for like recalling what was discussed. I know sometimes like we can't attend all of the subcommittee meetings, but like I'd love to hear what was brought up in like the DevRev committee for like a specific project or something.
Sure. I actually like to go back through videos and listen to them at like 2x speed sometimes, just to make sure I didn't miss anything, but not spend another hour on it. So it is a handy tool.
I just have a question about, and this may not even be an issue. I just know with some other organizations I've partnered with, it's, is there a space issue in terms of like storing all these recordings?
That was going to be my question for Hannah, whose mic went on right before this came up.
I don't know. I don't know much with technology, but I don't think that should be an issue. I will say there's a lot of like admin work I have to do around like uploading recordings and stuff. So if it is something maybe we could keep on our YouTube channel, but not post it on like the formal minutes and like that whole page. I think we could, because we now have a whole YouTube BPAC channel that's linked to the city's BPAC or city's channel. So if you guys want to just upload it on the YouTube.
I mean, I have no objections to that. Yeah.
So when Zoom meetings are recorded, it's video and audio, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I never knew.
I was going to add that it could also add like a level of accessibility for people. One who just like can't attend the meeting, but also it can provide subtitles and stuff. So we can have that incorporated in the meeting to offer subtitles, but also in the recording so that people can read what's happening.
Okay. I think we can move towards doing that. I don't think that's something we need to vote on. Do we? Anybody? It's just procedure. So just make that our practice. And the other thing, which I'll just mention briefly, is again, Nathan mentioned it. we do have the ability, if you look at our bylaws, to actually have members of the public serve on those standing subcommittees, but also to form new subcommittees if we want. I don't want us to have 100 committees, but it might be possible for some specific tasks. I think probably the terminology we should use is task force. That implies something that has a beginning, middle, and an end. I think that would be useful. I'm happy to leave it to the subcommittees we have to determine specifics on that, like when that's needed and when it's warranted. But I just want to encourage you, if you have people that are interested, people from Bike Durham, people from student organizations or anyone else that are interested in things that maybe don't want to join BPAC and make the time commitment and involved, but would like to be involved, there is a vehicle for that through the subcommittees. It also helps us out too, because it gets more eyes on things. So I think we can probably leave that for now. But I just want to encourage you to be creative and think about how we can better engage the public, because I think that's a very important part of what we do. Yes.
Brian, I have a follow-up to that. If we have specific feedback that we would want to share for any given subcommittee, would it be best to briefly air it out here or save it for the next subcommittee meeting?
I mean, I think here is fine.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So my thought process with Triple E, especially as it is a subcommittee that has struggled to retain attendance from members and the general public more broadly, and with its unique timing, especially moving forward, it is established 6 to 7, second Tuesday of every month. I'm wondering what opportunities there are to incorporate the larger public, more particularly the community that is really passionate about social bike riding. The reason I mention that is because the pony ride, which happens the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m., is the most popular and the most well-attended social ride in all of Durham, bar none. And it starts maybe like not even 5 blocks away. It starts at the Bull a little after 7. These rides always start late. It's a bureaucracy thing. And so essentially this ride starts very shortly after our Triple E meetings. And I'm curious whether people would have any ideas or sort of just want to go home and chew on that. As to what opportunities there are to bring folks in. I know obviously it would be a lot to ask for the Triple E subcommittee meeting to be in person in this room every month. But I do think that some bridging of that would be a great way to really boost ourselves among the social cycling scene, which would arguably be the most in favor of improved bicycle infrastructure in this city, even though probably 3/4 of them do not know what BPAC is and have never heard of it. Whenever I mention it, it goes right over their head. But they spend the whole ride, not the whole ride, but some of the ride complaining about the infrastructure that's around them. You would think that if they get to air their grievances immediately before that ride, they get it all out of their system so that they can enjoy riding around with their friends. And so I guess the point I'm trying to get at is whether there are opportunities to plug in an already very thriving infrastructure there into, of all subcommittees, our engagement subcommittee, our subcommittee that is the most public, supposed to be the most public facing. And so I don't know, perhaps if there's opportunities to do many public events where every other Triple E subcommittee meeting is held in this room and runs from 6 o'clock to 6:50. And then cyclists just go right across the street afterwards and ride with their friends. And now they're not complaining about all the potholes and the fast cars because they just did it for the past 50 minutes. But yeah, just my 2 cents in case anyone, particularly any of our Triple E folks, are curious about chatting about that more. I'm close with the folks that run that ride. I sometimes run that ride or help facilitate that ride. And so that would be a very easy plug to make should we decide to seize that opportunity. also wanted to get feedback from folks on that.
Yeah, I've definitely had that come up on our calendar of like, do I want to attend the pony ride or do I want to attend Triple E? And then I just decide not to attend either. But they're both on our calendar.
I offer you, why not both?
Well, the why not both is that I still, well, yeah, like we could be here, but yeah, that offers the opportunity for people on the committee to also attend the pony ride instead of sitting at home wanting to go for a ride and it being dark and by themselves.
I have a couple of thoughts. For me, I'm looking at it as it's extending a 1 hour meeting to essentially, at least I don't know, 2.5 hour meeting in terms of having to get down here and then get back for the committee meeting. And also I mean, I would welcome inviting them if there's like, leadership to that group, inviting them to a Triple E meeting and just hearing from them, maybe giving them a space here for one of our regular monthly meetings to present, talk about their group and stuff. But I also would be concerned if, we're tailoring the Triple E meetings going forward to accommodate interaction with this group. Are we serving both the bicycle and pedestrian community or putting a little bit too much emphasis on just the bicycle community? So that's something that needs to be taken into account.
I appreciate that because I was thinking that as well. I feel like there are a lot of groups that are very organized around bicycling, and not that there's like walking groups necessarily, but there's very limited focus on the walking infrastructure as much, I think, and walking accessibility. So I do appreciate that. Not that folks wouldn't be welcome, but I do think there's a lot of focus on biking.
I will say, and then I might suggest bringing it up in a Triple E meeting. But taking both of these comments also as written, I would like us to prioritize first the participation of people who have already committed to participate in that committee. And then find ways to engage. So I do realize the schedule conflict is kind of inconvenient and maybe a little unfortunate, but I'm not sure we should work completely around it unless Triple E as a whole decides it's worth doing. So I would recommend taking that up as a discussion to have, or maybe see if there's a way to resolve that. And I do appreciate the effort you're making here to try and satisfy both. I really do appreciate that.
And I want to continue having that conversation at the Triple E meeting. So I'm happy to take it all in. My 2 cents about it is pretty selfish, which is that as someone who does community engagement for a living, like what evening am I not out and about doing a thing? And so like, I am shocked, quite frankly, that I have this consistent sliver of time in my calendar. And so I'm doing the best I can. So, but that's just the reality of the time crunch. So, I mean, unless y'all want to hang out with me, speaking of walking infrastructure, if y'all want to move the meeting to a morning meeting where we do walking, and then we can have the Triple E meeting. I'd love to do that in the morning. That would be great.
I'm going to suggest we table this to the next Triple E meeting. But thank you.
I was ready to motion.
We might actually need to motion for like 5 more minutes.
I motioned to add 5 more minutes.
I'll second that.
Andre's seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Try to do this last bit quick. Announcements and updates. This is me and Hannah. I'll make this quick. I'm going to be gone for a really long time in May and June. I'll be leaving the country on May 24th and coming back, all going well, on June 16th for some work-related stuff very far away. I will not be meaningfully accessible to this body during that time. Marissa and I have already talked about this. I'm looking at her, making sure that's still true. She's still, okay. To cover any duties, most of which will relate to planning the June meeting of this body, which I will probably be back for, but will be about 11 hours ahead on my body clock. So I'm not making any promises about how good I'm going to be that day. So that meeting's all yours. And yeah, I will be on email, but the response rate will be much, much, much lower than you're used to. If you email me. If you don't, then it doesn't matter. So just want to let everybody know, but that will be happening and that's covered. Any questions? Hannah, I think you have something similar to mention.
Yep, I will be out from Friday, like morning until May 13th. And then I will be back. Actually, May 15th. Yeah, that's a Monday. So just if anyone like messages me, like I'm just gonna have that out of office, so.
And that probably affects me more than anybody else, but yeah. Okay, just wanted to make sure we knew. Okay, great. Priorities, communicating out. I have a few. This isn't so much a communication priority, but I consider it an action item, at least for me and probably some other people. Scott, we'll look into your term. The length of it, make sure we get clarity on that. With the county clerk. I'm going to get the links from Ideal about all the engagement events to add to the minutes for this meeting that we'll all see. Brilliant, already done. I'll just make sure I put them in. We need to make sure that the 6 to 7 EEE time slot is clearly communicated on all our public facing documents and comms. Great. And I think that's, and we need to communicate internally about how to handle the disbursement of funds for Biking Well Black.
Okay, I also just purchased the racks, so.
Great, so we're halfway there.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, thanks, Amazon.
That sounds like it'd be the simplest thing to do if that matches up. So great. Did I miss anything? Okay, we only needed 1 extra minute. Good for us. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Well done. How'd you like your first meeting?